Asa ngayon si Pastor? Nakuha na niya yung, di ba? Yung summons ng Senado. Pero siya ba is he around? Is he going to attend? Is he may any conditions? Ano po?
Well, we are seriously studying our options, and just earlier this afternoon, the members of the legal team met, and we made a series of recommendations for him to consider. So, wala naman pong categorical na sinasabi si Pastor Quiboloy na hindi siya pupunta. Kanya lamang, he has certain reservations. Even if you read yung statements po niya na na-publish sa ilang mga pahayagan, he simply has some reservations, and I do not blame him because mukhang hindi naman po in aid of legislation yung pagdinig ng committee ni Senator Riz Ontiveros. In aid of persecution po yun sapagkat kung titingnan nyo yung kanyang mga pronouncements ni Senator Ontiveros, it would appear that in her eyes, at the pastor is already guilty of so many crimes, and it is not the place of the Senate to be pronouncing the guilt of anyone. That is not my opinion. That is the pronouncement of our Supreme Court, which according to the Civil Code, they form part of the law of the land.
Okay, sir, Atty. Topacio, yung inquiry naman po ng House of Representatives is not related to those cases filed in the US. So, is it possible that the pastor would find it more conducive to appear before the House inquiry?
As in fact, they are. They are related. Some of the allegations there pertain to cases already filed in the United States. Yung iba pong witnesses na umapir doon are the same witnesses na nag-file po ng kaso sa Davao. Yung iba po ay na-dismiss na. Yung iba po ay nasa DOJ pa. So that means our judicial system, our system of justice is working. At ako yung sinasabi po ni Senator Ontiveros na in aid of legislation, anong legislation ang ino-contemplate niya? Kasi all of these pertain to alleged human trafficking, sexual abuse, last year lang po, inamyendahan, July 2023, nagkaroon po ng amendments sa human trafficking law. So, what legislation is he talking about? We do not perceive any po.
Attorney,
yung at a bully pulpit to humiliate and degrade Pastor Quiboloy.
Attorney, yung House inquiry po, yung inquiry ng House of Representatives, baka doon, hindi kaya mas open na umattend doon si Pastor Quiboloy?
Kasi paano pong open, kitang-kita nyo naman yung bias ng chairman in her public pronouncements, in her privilege speech, doon sa mga pinapakita yung mga witnesses na ni hindi mo alam yung tunay na pangalan, ni hindi mo alam kung sino sila, nakatago yung mga pagmumukha nila. Well, hindi po pwede na gano'n. It is a kangaroo court once again. Parang mangyayari na naman po dyan yung sa Parmali case na sinabi ng ating Korte Suprema late last year in the case of Ong versus Parmali na violate yung rights ng mga resource persons.
Ito na lang, Attorney, si Pastor po ba nandito lang sa Pilipinas o...
Nandito lang po siya. Nandito lang po. Kausap ko lang po siya kanina. He's here, and he is pondering on his options at the moment.
Pero Attorney, he has some reservations. Pero in his YouTube statement, it was not just some reservations. He was talking about assassination. So, kaya medyo nagulat lahat na parang, naku, ganun pala katindi ang pangamba ni Pastor Apollo Quiboloy. So ano po, in the end, has the pastor come to a decision? What is the recommendation of the legal team? Is he going to attend? Is he going to attend any of the two hearings, whether the Senate or the House? Magkaiba po yung dalawa?
Wala pa po sa ngayon because we just submitted to him our studies on the matter, the laws applicable, so he can make an intelligent and informed decision as to what to do with respect to the subpoena.
But what do you recommend, sir?
Well, I will have to plead the lawyer-client privilege on that one. Lawyer-client work product po kasi yun that is covered by lawyer-client confidentiality.
Yeah, well, I had to try.
Good try anyway, boss.
Pero sir, anyway, yun nga, I know what you mean. You're referring to the Supreme Court decision on the Parmali case. And the Supreme Court has said at least twice na any move to cite for contempt and detain witness who has been summoned, it has to be for it has to be in aid of legislation.
Yes, and
not
I'm
for anything
very
else.
familiar with that case because I was the one who argued that case before the Supreme Court. Lincoln Ong was my client.
Okay.
Well, he still is.
But is there any way that the Senate can argue that this is in aid of legislation? We are planning to look at loopholes in current legislation with regard to cases of trafficking or no. But you know how it is, diba?
Well, in that case, then the Senate has to comply with the guidelines set down by the Supreme Court. In the case of Senate versus Ermita and Neri versus the Senate, wherein you have to submit together with subpoena a copy of the proposed legislation to the resource person.
Ayun.
So he would know how to prepare and a list of proposed questions, which the committee has not done. Why? Because they have no legislation in mind. Whatever legislation pertains to the testimony, I've looked at the testimony, lahat po yan covered na. Noong mga amendments, the most recent one, which I have said, was only in July last year, kung saan natakpan na po ang lahat ng loopholes sa human trafficking, yung ginawang crime against person instead of crime against honor, ang rape. In-expand po yung rape to include other acts that were previously not included in the purview of the term rape. Ano pang gusto nilang mangyari? Yun naman po eh. So talagang suspect po itong motives ni Senator Risa Ontiveros.
Pero sir, if I recall correctly, yung target date for the subpoena is March 5 or March 4?
Yes po, opo.
March 5
Opo,
ata
March 5 po.
Tuesday. In any case, kung sakali pong, just in case that Pastor decides with the recommendation from the legal team not to appear, what will be the recourse of Pastor Quiboloy if contempt is levied upon him?
Well, we will cross the bridge when we get there, but of course, just like in Neri versus Senate, there is always a recourse to the courts. Sapagkat sinabi naman po ng ating Korte Suprema, hindi po absolute ang kapangyarihan o poder ng Senado o ng lehislatura, pati ng mababang kapulungan, na mag-issue na lamang ng mag-issue ng subpoena. There are certain requisites, there are certain guidelines, and all other powers of government under a tripartite system of government, may limitasyon po yan.
Sir, last question ko. In reference yung tanong ni Patty kanina, kasi ang tanong ni Patty kanina was centered around the House investigation, the House inquiry, the House hearing, which I think is involving the SMNI case.
Franchise, yeah.
The SMNI franchise. Iba po yun dun sa, of course, yung sa hearing ng Senado.
Opo, in that case, I will have to defer to attorneys Mark Tolentino and Rolex Suplico because sila po yung lead dun po sa House hearings on the SMNI franchise.
Okay.
Attorney, I'm just curious about what prompted Pastor Quiboloy to come up with that video statement. It was an audio statement. We all know that it was in response to the summons from the House and the Senate. But in that video, it was very politically charged. So what should we make of that video statement of Pastor Quiboloy?
It should be taken in the context of all these acts of persecution being directed against him, the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, and SMNI. Because hindi naman siguro coincidence na nagkaroon ng hearing on the cancellation of the franchise. There was a resolution urging the NTC to indefinitely suspend the franchise of SMNI. Then sinampina si Pastor sa House, sinampina siya rito sa Senado. Marami po na hindi kami naniniwala na coincidence lamang ito. Rather, it appears to be part of an orchestrated scheme in order to destroy the Kingdom of Jesus Christ and discredit and humiliate and degrade the Pastor Apollo Quiboloy.
Attorney was referring to surveillance by CIA and FBI in the Philippines. I mean, what sort of evidence do we have about this matter, regarding this matter?
Kasasabi lang po sa akin ng legal team po na may mga tao ro na monitor yung mga drones. But of course, there will be a dearth of evidence because if you read that book, Portrait of a Cold Warrior by Joseph Smith, a former CIA operative, talaga po mahihirapan tayong i-prove ang intervention ng CIA. That's why ang Islang term po sa kanila is spooks. They're like ghosts. Mahirap po silang makita. But rest assured that we would not be making such statements kung wala po kami nakikita na hand ng CIA dito and other shadowy organizations connected with the US government.
Attorney, it's interesting that you made mention of that book because I read that book at least twice or three times,
Opo.
Joseph Smith. That was written in 1955 or
Opo,
1960s.
opo. Actually, sa tatay ko yung librong yun.
Very
Nakita
interesting
ko nung bata ako.
narration of events during the time of Magsaysay up to the
Opo,
time of
how they make
Nodindiem.
presidents, they
Yes, sir.
intervened in
But-
Indonesia, etc., etc.
Yes, sir. But again, that was a different time, different era
Wala pang
altogether.
electronic surveillance nun. Wala pang drone.
Yes, sir.
Well, it's even worse now because ngayon, hindi nga namin alam kung nag-meeting kami ron, may mga cellphone kaming dala kung namomonitor na kami. But, now it's even easier for the CIA to tap into other people's private conversations, etc.
So given these circumstances now, Attorney, what sort of precaution is Pastor taking apart from being scarce in public?
Well, that is the only precaution that we can take, and his deep and abiding faith that since he has done nothing wrong, then he should be protected by our laws. Ang problema hindi po
Nagsa-cellphone
yan
pa ho siya.
nangyayari.
Nagsa-cellphone po dahil alam nyo, delikado yung CIA, no? Do you have access to him through cellphone? Yan na lang.
Yes, we convert to the usual means, Zoom,
Okay.
cellphone. So wala po tayo magagawa. Those are the only means available to us to confer with our clients.
Attorney, last question. Alam ko may isa pa tayong guest na waiting, pero let me just throw this in. Pero Attorney, in the end, why would the CIA be interested in Pastor Apollo Quiboloy?
Yes.
Di ba? I understand FBI, I understand State Department, but why the CIA? What would the CIA gain by wanting to...
Good question.
By wanting to
Actually, hindi na
assassinate
po bagong
Quiboloy?
allegation namin yan. Noong 2020 pa yata yon, when the warrant, the federal warrant first came out against Pastor Quiboloy, sinasabi namin, there is an attempt to erode yung kanyang influence dito because he was linked or relationship with former President Duterte. Presidente pa si Duterte noon, pa-election pa lamang po. Yun pong aming alegasyon noon. And now, that there is we are in the midst of geopolitics. Ang Pilipinas ay nasa geopolitics at ang perception siguro ng Amerika ay pro-China. Si Pangulong Duterte at dinedeplatform nila. Si Pangulong Duterte, sinisira niya ng Amerika yung kanyang support base, yung kanyang power base sa Pilipinas. And one linchpin of that power base is the Kingdom of Jesus Christ with its television station, with its radio station, and with a mass of followers numbering in the millions.
Okay.